Welcome everyone on this wet and wild September night. Thank you all for coming. If we could all please stand for the opening prayer and the original custodian statement. Almighty God, grant to this council wisdom, understanding and sincerity of purpose for the good governance of this city. Amen. And I wish to acknowledge the owners of the land in which we stand and pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging. Thank you. Please be seated. We'll move on to item 2 in the agenda, apologies. We have one apology from Councillor Paspaliaris. Can we get a mover and seconder to accept those? Councillor Jelly, Councillor Arnott, all those in favour? Passed. Item 3, confirmation of minutes. Can we have a mover that the minutes for the scheduled council meeting held on the 4th of August be confirmed? Councillor Jelly, Councillor Koish. No amendments or anything there. Put it to a vote. All those in favour? Passed unanimously. Item 4, declaration by councillors and officers of any conflicts of interest on any item on the agenda. Does anyone have any conflicts they wish to declare for tonight's meeting? No. All right, we'll move on to item 5, the mayoral presentation. And I'd just like to say thanks for coming out tonight. It has been a busy month at City Hall, but I'd first like to just say thank you to all the SES and emergency services for all their work over the past few days with the storms and what we've seen down at Viaduct Road, and we're starting to do assessments, working out the damage that's been done there. So thank you for everything you've done, not just council officers, but the SES and all the volunteers as well. Over the month too, we did sign the Memorandum of Understanding for Regional Cities Victoria. And I think it is important for Warrnambool as a regional city to be able to continue to advocate effectively to Spring Street and the federal government, especially with the federal election coming up. It's an important group that we are a part of for so many different things that we do as a regional city. It was great. While we were down there, we spoke with Premier Jacinta Allen, the Leader of the Opposition, John Pasuto, and a range of other ministers and shadow ministers. And it was actually really good to hear from Jerome Weimar on housing implementation and our new Police Commissioner, Shane Patton. One other special thing that did happen over the last month as well is we had Mura Mayor Yoshida come to visit the city. We've got one of the longest sister-city relationships in the country. 32 years we've had a sister-city relationship with Mura, and it really does focus around those student exchanges, and it is a really special relationship. And thank you to Mayor Yoshida for coming out and enjoying our wonderful city, I think for the 4th time since he's been mayor for nearly 20 years over there. And the other one I'd just like to talk about as well, we actually had the Property Institute come to visit Warrnambool down at the golf club, and it was really great. The Deputy Mayor Jelly could address them, and it's great to see that we're hosting these events for all these different groups. So it has been a busy month down here at Warrnambool City Council. We'll now move on to item 6, public question time. Mr. Mason, do we have any questions?
Mr. Mayor, we've got 2 questions. One from Ms. Fiona Main and the other from Ms. Kath King. I intend to read out both of the questions and then do a single response, given that they both relate to the same issue. So the first question is from Fiona Main. The question relates to the car parking strategy that is on the agenda tonight, and the question is how many additional parks are estimated to be created by reducing residential nature strips in Wright Street and creating 90-degree or angle car parking? And secondly, has the safety of residents, pedestrians, cyclists and motor users been considered in the proposed additional parking and the impact on the intersection of Wright and Koroit Street intersections? And the second question is from Kath King. Is 90-degree parking in Wright Street considered appropriate for all abilities who may wish to access this parking in the hospital precinct? And secondly, does the cost of the proposed parking in Wright Street include provision for retaining walls, stormwater replacement and other safety requirements for residents and users? So in responding to this matter, I would note that the parking strategy that is before council tonight is a very high-level document. It provides a sort of a big picture overview of parking in the city. No investigation into any of the specific ideas or proposals, such as additional parking in Wright Street, has been undertaken. Should the council or should a future council decide to progress with that, obviously it would be necessary to do further detailed design, engineering assessment and consultation with neighbours. And we're just not at that stage in this project. There are a range of important issues that have been raised in the submissions or questions, but we're just not at a stage where we can answer those, and they would have to go through detailed consideration.
Thank you, Mr Mason. I think, yeah, the key thing is with the strategy that will be before us tonight, it's about the overall direction. It's not actually looking at specific projects. It's just the ideas behind what would guide what investment would be. Thank you for that. We'll move on to officer reports. Item 7.1, the draft operations report, financial statements and annual performance statement governance checklist 2023-2024. Mr Mason.
Thank you, Mayor. This report recommends that council give in principle approval to the financial statements and the performance statements. These documents have been reviewed by council's Audit and Risk Committee, and it's also recommended that council endorse or authorise both yourself and Councillor Paspaliaris to certify the financial statements. Once the financial statements have been finalised, that will be included in the annual report, which will come to the next council meeting. In summary, I think that the financial and performance audits show that council remains in a strong financial position, and the performance statement shows that we're hitting those key indicators well. So the recommendation is before you in 5 parts.
Thank you, Mr Mason. Are there any questions on that? Can we have a mover? Councillor Ziegler.
Yes, Mayor. I'll move that the officer's recommendations be accepted.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Arnott. Councillor Ziegler.
Nothing to say. This is housekeeping, Councillor Blaine. The approvals are there in principle and are well detailed. I don't think it behoves us to go through the detail.
Thank you, Councillor Ziegler. Councillor Arnott.
Look, I'll just say, look, this is a legislative requirement. As Councillor Ziegler has said, all the documentation is there for everyone to peruse. I will just reinforce what our CEO said, and that when you read through our financials, they do show us in a strong position, and it's really good to see that our performance statement is we're performing well as a council, so hitting a lot of milestones. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Arnott. Any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor Jelly.
Yes, good, strong financial position, and this, as much as it is an operational report, allows council to meet its statutory obligations to be part of the upcoming annual report, which is very important. So it encompasses a lot in it, which will go into the annual report, but it's a good document to take us into the annual report.
Thank you, Councillor Jelly. Any other councillor wish to speak? It is good to see too, when we're doing the in-principle support that we've passed the external audit, and I look forward to seeing how this all goes with the annual report next month. Councillor Ziegler, do you wish to add anything to close?
I'll just finish by saying, Mayor, that the performance statement has been subject to external audit, as you've repeated, by the Auditor General's agent, with the outcomes also having been reviewed by our very own Audit and Risk Committee. So that's all above board and a positive result.
Thank you, Councillor Ziegler. All right, with no further speakers, we'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour, passed unanimously. Item 7.2, the Warrnambool car parking strategy, page 9. Mr Mason.
Thank you, Mayor. This is an important piece of work. The parking strategy, as I've indicated, gives big picture or strategic guidance to the future development of and future arrangements of car parking in the city. And that's an important issue given Warrnambool's a growing regional city. The strategy shows that while there is sufficient car parking in the city at present, there are particular hotspots or issues where there is sometimes a shortfall of car parking. And those areas are particularly around parts of the CBD, the railway precinct and the hospital precinct. And these areas will be a continued focus for car parking improvements. The strategy has been subject to community consultation and it is recommended that Council endorse the parking strategy as set out in the recommendation.
Thank you, Mr Mason. Were there any questions? Do we have a mover? Councillor Arnott.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to move that Council endorse the Warrnambool Car Parking Strategy 2024.
Thank you, Councillor Arnott. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Ziegler. Councillor Arnott.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, as our CEO has said, it's a very important document, and I'm really pleased to say that we did receive 13 submissions. So thank you to those people that took the time to offer up those submissions. Our last city centre parking strategy was developed in 2015, and so it really is due for a good hard look at. But I will just make a comment, 10 years on, definitely due for review. But since 2015, we have created 180 additional free all-day car parks at the railway station. We've had an introduction of 1 hour free parking in off-street car parks. We've had upgrades to Council's ticketless parking meters and the phone app, and the introduction of Council's smart parking management system. So they are all positives since 2015. Warrnambool is a population that we are heavily reliant on private vehicles, and many of the outer areas are poorly serviced by public transport. There's a few interesting facts though. Overall, our public parking occupancy in the CBD is 66%, and that's actually reduced since pre-COVID levels, so that's a little bit interesting. However, we must highlight the really parts of the CBD that do experience high demand. And I'd have to say one of those areas is obviously around the hospital precinct. That's becoming a little bit of a hotspot, and as well as the railway precinct. I think some of the ideas that were put forward in the strategy are well worth consideration. Particularly the installation of parking sensors in popular areas. That would help increase compliance and turnover, which is important. Another one that I thought was really worthwhile consideration was the 15-minute parking spaces in front of the likes of post offices, banks and a chemist. And we certainly do need to investigate potential additional parking around the hospital precinct. Now look, I understand that no one likes to pay for parking, no one does, but if we wish to have a vibrant city, we have to make a contribution to it. So fully endorse the proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Arnott. Councillor Ziegler.
Yes, as has already been alluded to by the questions that were read out by the CEO, this is an overall parking strategy that guides future council to make decisions on parking issues. One thing we all know is that parking is going to generate perennial problems in different areas. We've got that long-lasting issue of the landlocked hospital parking area. That's going to continue to be an issue, but this strategy is overall a good one for guidance into the future.
Thank you, councillor Ziegler. Any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor Jalley?
Yes, and I also thank our two community members that have come in tonight with their public question that the CEO answered. That was really good to further understand, but your thoughts are there for the future when this document starts coming to fruition. It's great that this strategy covers additional precincts that it mightn't have covered back in 2015, nearly 10 years ago. It's not just looking at the CBD. We understand the CBD has always had parking issues, but it's looking at other areas, the industrial area, the breakwater, lots of different areas in the city. So that's great to have a good vision everywhere. As Councillor Arnott said, this council introduced the 1 hour free parking in the designated off-street 2-hour car parks in the CBD precinct. This has been very, very successful and well utilised. I think once people got to understand it, that was great. So utilised by the community and CBD users. Yes, there's some great ideas that were put forward by the submissions. So look forward to the next council delving through into those to work through them. But I think it's a great strategy that's been well looked at.
Thank you, councillor Jalley. Councillor Taylor?
Thank you, Mayor Blaine. I'd like to endorse my fellow councillors' comments and the car parking strategy, which provides for long overdue investigation into additional car parking issues in the hospital precinct and the centre of the road in the Raglan Parade to assist all days CBD car parking. The recommendation for installing car parking detection centres would be extremely advantageous to increase compliance and turnover of cars in the CBD. And finally, I am not in favour of increasing parking fees in the CBD owing to the fact that there remains near 3,000 free car parks in the 3 shopping centres outside the CBD. Thank you, Mayor Blaine.
Thank you, councillor Taylor. Any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor Kuish?
Thank you, Mayor. This document of car parking strategy is, to me, is appealing and well thought of, especially some points in this document. For example, the whole day parking with only $4, which is the lower in the regional Victoria, I think is really good options for residents. The other thing also I would like to point out here is the all abilities, so people with disability to have 1 in 4 places, I think need to be increased if possible. The other thing also, if we can just give mostly free parking for people with disability, I think will be great to our people. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Kuish. And I'd just like to add, it really is a key high-level document, and there are going to be pinch points across our municipality, and whether it is, the main street up the CBD, or we see it down the foreshore, or the hospital precinct, there are pinch points, but, without any strategic direction on how we can try and ease them, it's a challenge to be able to to offer what we actually need to make sure that there is accessibility to all those critical services and all those businesses in our city. So I think, I actually think this is quite well done with the ideas, and I look forward to seeing this continue to be implemented, and hopefully we see another review of it a bit quicker than 10 years, unlike the last one. Councillor Arnott, do you wish to add anything to close?
Oh, Mayor Blaine, I think everything's been said about this document, so I'm happy to pass.
Thank you. We'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Passed unanimously. Move on to item 7.3, Warrnambool Library and Learning Centre Meeting Room Policy. Mr Mason.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a relatively simple one. The policy will provide direction for the use and hire of meeting rooms in the library, and it is recommended that council adopt the policy.
Thank you, Mr Mason. Any questions? Do we have a mover? Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Mayor Blaine. I'd like to move a motion that council adopt the Woonawal Library and Learning Centre Meeting Room Policy 2024 as per the Director's recommendation. Thank you, Mayor Blaine.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Arnott. Councillor Taylor.
This policy is required to support staff in decision-making to provide guidance regarding the principles and general conditions that relate to community hire of meeting and multipurpose rooms within the Woonawal Library and Learning Centre. Thank you, Mayor Blaine.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Arnott.
Oh, look, all I'll add is that, the library's been operating for 2 years now, so we do have a good understanding of what community groups wish to hire rooms there, and making sure that the purpose does align with what we see happening within the library. Not all requests are aligned with the intent of the library. We do need a policy to support the staff. They need to have guidelines, and so I think it's a very good policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Arnott. Any other councillor wish to speak? And I would like to add too, I think it's been amazing to see, like, when you try and book into one of those meeting rooms down there, the library is, booked a lot of the time. It's actually great to see the utilisation, a bit of guidance on how all those meeting rooms are used is really, really good. Councillor Taylor, do you have anything to add?
No, thank you, Mayor Blaine.
All right, we'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour, passed unanimously. We'll now move on to item 7.4, the Briley Sports and Community Hub Business Plan Project Progress Report. Mr Mason.
Thank you, Mayor. As councillors are very aware, the Briley Recreation Reserve has had a significant investment in it in relation to lighting and pitch improvements. In committing to these works, it was always recognised that new sporting facilities would be required, particularly given that we had to remove the existing change rooms and club facilities. Briley is also located in an area of new residential growth, and it's recognised that this area needs community meeting spaces, etc. Concept plans for a combined sport and recreation and community facility have been developed. It is recommended that council release the concept plans for community input. Given the urgent need for this investment or this community facility, sports facility to go ahead, it's recommended that council begin pursuing grant funding opportunities as they arise, and in particular there is some federal government funding or grants programs that will be coming up in the near future, which we are keen to look at.
Thank you, Mr.
So recommendation two parts before you.
Thank you, Mr Mason. Were there any questions? Do we have a mover? Councillor Jelly.
Thanks, Mayor. I'd just like to put forward that I would like to make an amendment to this motion that's proposed to us, the officer's recommendation. I would like to move that the council approve the release of the draft Briley Reserve Sports and Community Hub concepts for information. The council supports the submission of grant funding applications as they become available to progress the project. And the additional one, number 3, the council endorse concept option number 1 to inform future design development.
Thank you, Councillor Jelly. So so you've just added to the motion a third point to say that option 1 will be the one considered for future design development.
That's right.
Is that right?
Yep,
Yes.
correct.
Cool. Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Arnott. Councillor Jelly.
Yes, thank you. As CEO indicated, this has been a long time in the planning, and it is exciting to see it moving forward. The sporting oval out there that's coming forward, the lighting, and yes, we need some infrastructure to go with it, especially when you do have access to the plans, the planning for the change rooms and toilets and therefore the sporting groups that will use the ovals. I think that's really well designed and will, it'll be very accessible, toilets and change rooms and facilities for the sporting clubs, and prioritise a female-friendly environment, which is important with a lot of the older infrastructure that we've got in the city, that this is important. There'll also be a changing places bathroom for people for all abilities in our community. The rest of the hub, flexible multi-purpose room, and these two options, the second option was the original one of a year or so ago. After good community consultation, the officers have come back with the option one, which we are looking at tonight, which is a scale-back concept, significantly less funds, but it's still a very well thought-out option, and I think it's great. So it's good to be able to get this over the line and our officers start looking for funding toward it to allow it to move forward in the next couple of years.
Thank you, Councillor Jelly. Councillor Arnott.
Yes, fully endorse everything that Councillor Jelly has said. And, you know, this Briley Reserve, the redevelopment has been going on for a long time. You know, it started back in 2012-13. And, but with that length of time and the changing demographic, we did need to revisit and have another look at what was happening with the plans. We also need to make sure we future-proof it because it is a growing area out there. And I'd just like to touch on that. We did receive $1 million from the state government to complete the redevelopment of the Eastern Oval, and that included the cricket pitch and 2 soccer pitches, lighting, fencing, etc. It is a really well utilised area. A lot of people exercise, social contact, walk their dogs. So I'm happy for this to progress, and I look forward to us, as the next council, whoever that may be, to trying to pursue more funding to bring this to realisation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Arnott. Any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Mayor Blaine. The development of a business case for a sports and community hub at Briley Reserve is the next essential step in progressing the Briley Reserve Master Plan and is most necessary to attract essential government funding to create a shared sense of belonging and pride within the North Warrnambool community. Thank you, Mayor Blaine.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Any other councillor wish to speak? And I would just like to add, it's really good to see that, you know, there are going to be opportunities there for state and federal funding. And the scaled-back version, you know, will be really well loved out there in North Warrnambool. There's a real lack of community meeting spaces, and even across our city, the changing spaces, as Councillor Jelly's touched on. You know, it really is about being that totally inclusive facility that's not just for sports, but also community space as well. So it's been really good, and, you know, with a little bit of hard work, hopefully we can get in and get some funding for this, because it is needed, as Councillor Arnott touched on. After the Eastern Oval redevelopment, there really needs to be something out there. Sorry, Councillor Jelly, do you wish to add anything to close?
No, just looking forward to officers being able to have the business case done and be able to go for some funding. The scaling back of the original building is financially prudent, I think, for the whole city, and I think we're still going to get a very good venue at the facility that will service a wide area, because east of Babylon, all that area out there are growing. So I think, yes, as Councillor Arnott said, we've got to future-proof it. So looking forward to this coming to fruition.
All right, we'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour, passed unanimously. Now move on to item 7.5, calendar of dates of recognition and observance days. Mr Mason.
Thank you, Mayor. Across any year, there are a number of important days of recognition and observance to ensure that the organisation undertakes the necessary preparation to mark these occasions, a calendar of dates has been developed. It's recommended that council endorse this calendar of events. That doesn't preclude us doing anything else, but it just means that we know what's coming up and can suitably resource and plan for these activities.
Thank you, Mr Mason. Any questions on that? Do we have a mover? Councillor Ziegler.
Yes, Mayor, I'll happily move that council endorses the recognition of the following dates of recognition to be council observed dates for 2024-25. Ida Hubbard Day, International Women's Day, National Reconciliation Week, Anzac Day, Citizen of the Year Ceremony, National Volunteer Week, National Tree Day, Clean Up Australia Day, Remembrance Day, and point two, to acknowledge that a range of other dates of recognition will be observed by the organisation and implemented by council services, typically as programs of activities and with external messages to communities shared through council's communication channels.
Thank you, Councillor Ziegler. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Arnott. Councillor Ziegler.
Yeah, I think it's worthy of note that the recommended additions to the calendar of dates of recognition are Remembrance Day. I was amazed to know that it wasn't included originally as a council observed day, Dying to Know Day as an organisation observed day, and to retain World Refugee Day only and remove World Refugee Week. They are significant changes. I think it's relevant to know that some of those days haven't been afforded the recognition that they've deserved in the past, but if we have this particular policy and recommendation gets through, then we have no excuse but to make sure the recognition is made.
Thank you, Councillor Ziegler. Councillor Arnott.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, I do think council has a leadership role to play in this. We need to be able to support the community, all members of the community, and I'd just like to make note that the cost of these events has been budgeted for. So that's all. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Arnott. Any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor Ziegler, do you wish to add anything to close?
Just to make the point that it's very important that council is shown to be a leader in recognising important days that are acknowledged by the community, and as leaders for the community we need to show that it's certainly a part of the council calendar.
Thank you, Councillor Ziegler. With no further speakers, we'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Passed unanimously. We'll now move on to item 7.6, Development Plan for 28 Aberline Road. Mr Mason.
Thank you, Mayor. The following report considers a development plan which would facilitate a new childcare and swimming school on Aberline Road. It is noted that this is at the development plan only stage, and a further or future planning permit would be need to be submitted for these uses to be considered in more detail. Council's planning officers have assessed the application and have recommended it be approved as it accords with the planning scheme. So the recommendation is before you.
Thank you, Mr Mason. Are there any questions? Do we have a mover? Councillor Arnott.
I'd like to move that, having considered all the matters normally required under section 60 of the Act for planning applications, council approve the development plan under the relevant provisions of the Warrnambool Planning Scheme in respect of the land described as Lot 1 TP 830561Q, known as 28 Aberline Road, Warrnambool, Vic 3280, which seeks to facilitate a mixed-use development, a childcare centre and swim school on the subject site.
Thank you, Councillor Arnott. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Ziegler. Councillor Arnott.
Yes, this is a rather different development plan, having a childcare centre co-located with a swim school. It's not common. we don't seem to have any other planning like that at the moment. And it is in a residential area. However, as this is only a development plan, the broader dimensions of the compliance will come into force a little down the track. Like I said, to me, it seems a bit ambivalent. I find it difficult to understand why you'd have a childcare centre and a swim school right next to it, because as a parent and a grandparent, my first thought is safety. And we can say that children don't escape childcare centres, but guess what? They do. But as we've said, we don't really have any grounds to refuse this at the moment, so therefore we have to let it go through. So thank you, Mayor Blaine.
Thank you, Councillor Arnott. Councillor Ziegler.
Yeah, I'll endorse Councillor Arnott's comments and make the observation that there are plenty of swim schools that have childcare centres attached to them. Not so much this way around, but and it is unusual, but it seems to me to be a worthwhile development.
Thank you, Councillor Ziegler. Any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor Jalley.
Yes, I find it a little bit strange. It was originally, back in 2022, I think they were looking at just doing some residential development there on this plot of land and have now changed their mind. Yes, it's something we don't hear of very often. I do have some concerns about it, but yes, it is at the development plan stage, not at a planning permit stage. So let's see what comes back and the community think when that comes back, once more details have been provided to make this consideration viable and not affect amenity and impacts of neighbours. So the planning permit will delve deeper into this and see what comes of it.
Thank you, Councillor Jalley. Any other councillor wish to speak? I'd just like to add it is an interesting proposal, but after being named as a childcare desert last week in the childcare study, and looking at the swim school as well, it is a really crucial life skill for our young children, being able to swim and being able to have the capacity as we have more and more children in the municipality is really, really important. And I think plus there's housing attached to this as well. It's hitting on a whole range of different issues across the city. And as Councillor Jalley touched on, the amenity issues it will be something that will be looked at closer as we move, as they move to the building permit stage. But I do think it hits on a lot of different things and a lot of different challenges that we are seeing across our municipality. And I think if the proponents can make it work, I really wish them all the best. Councillor Arnott, do you wish to add anything to close?
Oh, no, I think you've said it all. Everyone has had to say so. Thank you.
All right, we'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Passed unanimously. Now move on to item 7.7, provision of contract cleaning services for main council buildings. Mr. Mason.
Thank you, Mayor. Council obviously operates a number of public buildings that require regular and thorough cleaning. This has been done historically under a cleaning contract which has expired. A competitive tender process has been used to identify potential contractors, and it is recommended following that process that the cleaning contract be awarded to Broad Scope Facility Services, who provided the best offer under the process.
Thank you, Mr. Mason. Are there any questions? Do we have a mover? Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Mayor Blaine. I'd like to move the council number 1 award contract 2024-053 provision of contract cleaning services for main council buildings to Broad Scope Facility Services Proprietary Limited for a minimum 3-year period at the annual lump sum of $355,240.77 indexed annually at CPI. 2, accepts the schedule
Councillor Taylor, sorry, you can accept the officer's recommendation if you don't want to read the whole thing, or you can read the whole thing. That's totally up to you.
Well, I'll continue to.
All right, no worries, councillor Taylor.
2, accepts the schedule of rates component of 2024-053, provision of contract cleaning services for main council buildings to broad scope facility services for all one-off cleans, additional cleans and emergency cleans. 3, notes that contract 2024-053, provision of contract cleaning services for main council buildings is for a 3-year period with the option of 2x1 extensions. 4, notes that the estimated spend across the 5-year length of the contract to be $2,053,988.42 inclusive of GST. And finally, 5, authorises the CEO to sign, seal and vary the contract as required and delegate the CEO authority to determine if the contract extension is to be exercised and to execute the extension as required. Thank you, Mayor Blaine.
Thank you, councillor Taylor. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Ziegler. Councillor Taylor.
Moment. A procurement process has been undertaken for a new cleaning contract for the main council buildings. Acceptance of the recommendation tender represents best value for council. Thank you, Mayor Blaine.
Thank you, councillor Taylor. Councillor Ziegler.
Yeah, it's probably worth noting, councillor Blaine, that 21 tender submissions were received and considered by the tender assessment panel, and the tenders that are mentioned in the recommendation have come up trumps.
Thank you, councillor Ziegler. Any other councillor wish to speak? And I would like to add too that, and this feeds into the next one, that it was actually, the option was there to piece it out because we've got a range of different facilities that need a range of different cleaning methods. So when we move on to the next one, it's going to be the stadium and Aquazone are actually pieced out from this, which was a really good thing from the tender process with the 21 tenderers. Councillor Taylor, do you wish to add anything to close?
No, thank you, Mayor Blaine.
All right, we'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Passed unanimously. We'll now move on to item 7.8, provision for cleaning contract services for Aquazone and hard court sports centres. Mr Mason.
Well, Mayor, you've stolen my thunder. As you've identified, this is a specific contract that was let for those 2 facilities. Having gone through a competitive process, it's the officers are recommending that Macom Pty Ltd be awarded this contract.
Thank you, Mr Mason. Any questions? Oh, councillor Ziegler. Mover, councillor Ziegler. Second, sorry, go, councillor Ziegler.
Thank you. I'll move that the officers' recommendations be received.
Thank you, councillor Ziegler. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Jelly. Councillor Ziegler.
No comments. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Jelly.
Oh, no, just to, as the CEO indicated, this has been through, it's for different services, it's for different buildings. The appropriate tender has been accepted to clean a particular buildings for the aquatic centre and hard court sports centre. So that's why they've got the award, Macom Proprietary Limited, and best value for what he needs.
Thank you, councillor Jelly. Any other councillor wish to speak? I would like to add too, just on this one, it would be a big job doing that big window wall at Aquazone.
Yeah.
Like, that's a lot of windows to clean, and it's great to see that we've got some professionals who are actually good at it doing it, because like, I look at the way my windows get done at home and they probably won't get done as well as they will at Aquazone. Councillor Ziegler, do you wish to add anything to close?
Thank you.
All right, we'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Passed unanimously. Item 7.9, the tender award, Val Bertram Sports Court flooring renewal. Mr Mason.
Thank you, Mayor. The netball courts at the stadium need to be replaced. and this is a project that's been on the books for a number of years. Following the budget, we have undertaken a competitive tender process to identify suitable contractors to do this work. Obviously, this is fairly specialised work. Pleasingly, we had a number of, or two tender submissions, and it's recommended that the contract be awarded to R&B Timber Flooring. Also of consideration in this project has been ensuring that there's minimal disruption to sports and sports competition. So with most of this work will get done over the summer period. So recommendation is before you in 4 parts.
Thank you, Mr Mason. Were there any questions? Do we have a mover? Councillor Arnott.
Thank you. I would just like to move the officer's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Arnott. The seconder, Councillor Ziegler. Councillor Arnott.
Well, there's no doubt that the Val Bertrand Stadium, Sports Stadium, has been a well-used and much-loved facility in Warrnambool. Unfortunately, the flooring's reached its end of life, and we now have allocated $665,000 for a new floor system. The remaining balance will be to complete the items that are not included in the tender submissions. And as our CEO said, the completion date is set for 25th of Feb. So hopefully not too many sporting events will be interrupted within that time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Arnott. Councillor Ziegler.
Yes, Councillor Blaine, it's worth noting for public consumption that the total value is over $500,000. It's a pricey job. It's got to be done, and it's a well-loved facility. We've got to keep it in good order.
Thank you, Councillor Ziegler. Any other councillor wish to speak? I would just like to add as well, when it comes to the 2 tenderers that we saw, it is really good to see R&B Timber Flooring really have good after work service and warranty on the work that's been done there, and hopefully this means that the sports flooring will will last us another decade for this investment if we continue to look after it, because it is a really critical piece of infrastructure, especially in the winter months when we've got weather like we have outside at the moment. Councillor Arnott, do you wish to add anything to close?
No, thank you.
All right, we'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour, passed unanimously. Item 710, the cycling reference group minutes, Mr Mason.
Mayor, just a procedural matter. The minutes or the record of the cycling reference group meeting from August is attached for council to receive.
Any questions? Do we have a mover? Councillor Jelly.
Yes, Mayor, I would like to move that we take the officer's recommendation that the record of the cycling reference group meeting held on the 7th of August 2024 be received.
Thank you, Councillor Jelly. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Ziegler. Councillor Jelly.
No, nothing. Thank you.
Councillor Ziegler.
No.
No other councillor wish to speak? We'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour, passed unanimously. Item 711, the informal meetings of council reports. Were there any questions on them? Do we have a mover? Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Mayor Blaine. I'd like to move a motion that the record of informal meetings of council held on the 12th, 19th and 26th of August 2024 be received. Thank you, Mayor Blaine.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Jelly. Does any councillor wish to speak? We'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour, passed unanimously. Item 712, the Mayoral and Chief Executive Officer Council Activities Summary Report. Were there any questions on that? Do we have a mover? Councillor Jelly.
Mayor, I'd like to move the recommendation that the Mayoral and Chief Executive Officer Council Activities Summary Report be received.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Arnott. No one wishes to speak on that? No, we'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour, passed unanimously. Item 8, notices of motion.
None received, Mayor.
Item 9, general business. Did anyone have any general business they wish to raise this evening? No. Item 10, urgent business, Mr Mason.
No urgent business.
Can we get a mover to suspend standing orders to allow the members of the public to go so that we can go into closed? Movers, Councillor Ziegler, seconder, Councillor Arnott. Do I put the motion to the vote? All those in favour? Thank you so much for coming tonight. We've got to do some in-camera stuff. Thank you for your questions and hopefully see you next month.